Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Hi, Ollie. I'm grateful that I found your channel and have made a contribution through PayPal. I have only recently come to see that my mom was an emotionally abusive narc and that my dad was a covert narc enabler. My dad used to joke throughout my childhood that he was going to run off with a gorgeous blonde. My dad was shaped like a tomato, so the likelihood of this was slim. But I would lay awake at night as a kid and hope that the gorgeous blonde would come and be my mother. I'm not sure when I clued in that something was really wrong with my mom. Memories of the things she said to me are only starting to come to the surface. I remember when I had saved my birthday money and bought the family Christmas presents. I think I was 9. I had shopped at the dollar store at the time, but I was very proud of the choices I had made. I was using my own money and I thought everyone would like the gifts. I had bought my mom a wallet that I thought had her birth month on it. She said she wasn't going to use it because it was ugly. I remember reeling and having a deep understanding that she was not okay. I was the oldest and my little brother was born when I was 10. I remember being very protective of him as she did not display any motherly affection toward him. One Saturday morning, my little brother was in his crib crying. Now, he's still an infant that needs his head supported when you pick him up. We yelled to my mom, "Mom, the baby is crying." And my mom yelled back, "I am not getting up." What? My sister and I am now 10 and she is 9, looked at each other without any words. We got up. We were so small that one of us had to climb into the crib to pick him up and hand him to the other one. When it was time to go back to school, I remember crying because I believed I would come home and he would be dead. I remember she used to leave a box of random stuff at the end of the hallway. Sometimes that box would stay for days as everyone walked around it. So weird. This one time I was walking where the box had been and I felt something hard going into my heel. I looked and there was a sewing needle sticking out of my heel. I yelled for my mom. She looked at my heel and laughed and said she had spilled some needles there and walked away. I had to pull it out. How sadistic. How sadistic. Sounds like how my grandmother used to ice up her sidewalk in the wintertime and sit in this big picture window and watch people fall and hurt themselves. How they didn't get sued is beyond me, but that she used to love to do shit like that. I had to pull it out myself, but I realized that if she spilled some, there had to be more. This was when I was about 11. This happened, and there were 4 siblings younger than me, and we all walked around in bare feet. So I looked through the carpet and started picking out the needles. I had to get a flashlight. It was hard to see them. I know there are more memories of sadistic stuff like this, but they have yet to surface. Yeah, she's booby trapping your house because they like seeing you injured. She used to berate us when she drove us to school. Know what that's like. Had enough of that, so the night before a school day, I put the cassette recorder under the front seat of the car. When I got in the car in the morning, I hit record. I do not remember what she said that morning, but I do remember being very satisfied that it was a great example of how she was treating us. When my dad came home from work, I gave him the cassette tape and said, "This is how she treats us." Nothing was ever said about it. She was mostly quiet on the way to school from then on. Early lesson in recording the narcissists. Early lessons. Early lesson in recording the narcissist. It's the recording of my mother, the recordings of my mother that drives her nuts. It was the recording my grandmother thought I had of her that drove her nuts. They don't like being caught on tape. It's a game changer. Early lessons of recording the narcissist should not ever be forgotten. I remember when my mother got a phone call from her home country that her older brother had died. She hung up the phone and started crying. We went to hug her. She shoved me away and yelled, "Don't touch me." When I was a sophomore in high school, my mom said I should apply for this contest that had a queen and her court for the city my school was in. So I did. I got second place. There was a parade and there was a parade where we were supposed to ride a float. I wasn't going to go. I didn't have a dress or anything. As far as my family was concerned, it was a big yawn. My boyfriend at the time shamed my mom the morning of the parade, and she decided to go. I borrowed a dress from my sister since I didn't have one. This would start what I now see as my family ignoring my accomplishments, as me being an accomplice to do that by downplaying them too. I never felt good about that trophy. I kept it in the garage and eventually threw it away. I remember coming home one day and she said to me, you don't know that your dad is your dad. I simply said, what are you telling me, Ma? Dad's not my dad? So what? He's the only one I know. I think my little brother is not my father's child, and that was her tell. Mostly, I remember the things she said to my sisters. My sister had become enraged and ran into the house saying, engaged. My sister had become engaged and ran into the house saying, I am getting married. I will never forget how my mom sauntered up to her, held out her hand to look at her new ring. Then she said, my diamond is bigger. My sister ran off crying on what should have been a happy occasion. My mom was always doing that. My other sister struggled with her weight. My mom met her at the door to show her this National Enquirer contest for overweight girls and that she should enter it. Wow. Wow. You just can't, like... What a twat. My sister ran off crying. I do remember my mom hissing in my ear, no one will ever want to be your friend. I wonder about that suggestion, as I have not had a close friend my whole life, and the few I did have turned out to be takers. Flash forward to now, I am now married to an overt narc, but I didn't know that, and another story. I worked the PM shift and my husband worked the day shift. I would drop our daughter off at the babysitter's and he would pick her up a few hours later. I was proud of this because it meant she was at the babysitter's the least amount of time. The only problem was that I got home between 12:30 a.m. and 1 a.m. It took a while to wind down and go to sleep. My daughter would wake up at 6 a.m. I was always sleep deprived. I would call my mom and beg her to come over and help me with the baby so I could get some sleep. It probably took about 10 or so times of her excuses before I realized she was never going to come and help me, even though I lived about 10 minutes away and she didn't work. Of course not. They want to make your life as miserable as possible. They want to make your life as miserable as possible because she's miserable. Misery loves company. Understand something. This all comes from your mother's misery. Add to this that the narc husband knew what was happening and probably wanted me sleep deprived. After I divorced this narc husband, I was really proud of myself because I found a home to rent in the city where I wanted to raise my kids. After we were all settled in, I invited my parents out to lunch and to come over and see the house all put together. My first home, all by myself. My mom walked through the door, and I'm sure she shit all over it, right? My mom walked through the house like she was an inspector, not saying anything. At the end of the tour, she looked at me and said, "You're not a good mom." I lost it. I yelled, "Fuck you, Mom." And I kept yelling it as she and my dad walked out of the house to the car. I didn't know about narc supply then, but I have to say, it felt great to say it. Even though her face was was completely satisfied like the cat that ate the canary. This memory came back to me as a good example of my covert narc enabler dad who said nothing and walked out with my mom. I could see now he was always pulling the strings. When I was dating my second husband, a covert narc, divorcing him now, a story for another day, my sister invited my entire family to her area for Thanksgiving. My sister had a friend who lent her his house, so all my siblings were provided with housing for the weekend, except me and my kids and my parents. I found out later that she paid for the hotel room for my parents, so the only one who had to pay for their housing was me. Thanksgiving was set up in 2 rooms as there were a lot of us. The kids were going to eat in the kitchen and the adults were set up in the living room. I remember telling my then fiance, watch, they're going to ask us to eat in the kitchen with the kids. And as sure as shit, my sister comes up and says, there aren't enough spaces at the table. Would you guys mind eating with the kids? My fiance said, yes, I mind. Good, 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 because obviously your sister is trying to take the role of your mother now. So somehow, some room was made and we ate with the adults. I never went back to see her again. I see now that she is an angry rageaholic narc. The last example was right before I woke up to narcissistic abuse. We had flown my parents out to our new home for a week. I mean, you are just a glutton for punishment. Why are you ordering in the narcissist misery? It's like, oh, what's on the menu tonight? Yeah, can I have some misery delivered? Extra guilt trip, please. Thank you. Yeah, don't forget the guilt trip. Okay, you got the address, right? Okay, thank you. About an hour for the misery to arrive? Perfect. Bye. Extra misery. Why order it? Why order narcissism with extra misery to your house? Stop doing it. Stop doing it. You're flying them out? Whew. I was very proud of this beautiful home and was excited to show my parents. I was bringing a glass of water up to my parents' room after they had arrived, and I could hear my mom snarling to my dad, and everything is perfect and everything is in its place. Wow. That's how my mom feels about my success. When I woke up, this memory helped me see how much my mother has always hated me. There is more, but I feel like this is long already. I feel that I was the only one who didn't get that my role in the family was changed years ago from golden child to scapegoat. You were never the golden child. You were never the golden child. You were always the scapegoat. If you were the golden child, you wouldn't have had to have recorded your mother abusing you in the car. If you were the golden child, your mother would have gotten her fat ass out of bed when you were calling her for your brother, not made you do it. You were never the golden child. You were never the golden child. I was supposed to show up so I could be ignored. It is so hard to figure this out for yourself. Your channel has helped me out immensely. I am no contact with my family of origin for 18 months now and have made a vow to myself that I will not go to their funerals. I am open to your feedback and hope sharing my story helps someone. Anonymous. Realize you were never the golden child. Okay? And realize this going forward. Okay, because if you were the golden child, you wouldn't have to record your mother. But realize this, above all else, with your family, okay? There is no reason to order narcissism with an extra side of misery, because that's all your mother and sister are about. Misery, misery, misery. Stop having narcissism delivered to your house. There's no reason for it. You're no contact. Stay no contact. Realize you were never the golden child. There are no golden children. Not until your sister grabbed the reins and showed your mother she's just as capable as playing the abuse game on you as she is. She didn't become a golden child till later. There were no golden children. Golden children don't have to climb into a crib to hand the baby brother over to the other sister at 9 and 10 years old. Golden children don't have to record their own mothers to stop them from abusing them in the car. That's not golden child. And later on, even after all this abuse, you continued to have narcissism delivered and don't forget the misery, because that's all your mother is about, is making you miserable. Whether it's hurting you, injuring you, leaving needles for you to get pricked, it doesn't matter. Having you work overnight, keeping you sleep deprived, it's all misery. And then you go and you have it delivered to your house. Fuck that. So, I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution and your story. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to help keep it supported, growing, and expanding, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you, all of this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Take